Hello, people. Today I'm going to do a show on Curtis Sliwa and the assassination attempt that was done on him in June of 1992. This took place. He was coming out of his house in the morning, and I'm going to get into who did it, why it happened, and just to tell you the fallout, basically, of what happened, and eventually who went to jail for it, if anybody. So first, let me play what happened to Curtis Sliwa the night he was shot. Here we go.
Well, the hunt is on tonight. Mayor Dinkins is pledging his help to find the gunman who ambushed and shot Curtis Sliwa. The Guardian Angels founder and leader is recovering from surgery at Bellevue Hospital tonight. And McGee Hickey is there now with a live report for us. McGee?
Chuck, Curtis Sliwa is still in critical condition at this hour after undergoing more than 6 hours of surgery to remove 5 bullets. He's expected to recover fully from his injuries in a shooting that took place this morning at exactly the same place where he'd been attacked by 3 men with baseball bats 2 months earlier.
To me, I don't know why it should do it to him, because he's a great man.
Tonight, Guardian Angels patrolled the Tompkins Square Park area as they wondered who was gunning for their founder early this morning. It happened just after 5 a.m. near this newsstand at 7th Street and Avenue A. Curtis Sliwa told police he had just gotten into this cab to head to his morning radio show when he was shot 5 times in the thigh and lower abdomen by someone he said was crouching in the front seat.
He jumped out the window to get away. He's got the scrapes and bruises on the side of his leg.
Had this bullet gone, I would say approximately 1 inch higher, he might have been paralyzed for life.
They're out to get him. He was set up. This is not the first time he's been put upon. Several weeks ago, he was attacked by fellows wielding bats.
Later, police determined the cab had been stolen the day before. Police say Sliwa's 2 white assailants switched into a white town car a few blocks from the shooting.
I admire Curtis Sliwa, and I think that he takes his life into his own hands doing what he does.
So I just hope everything works out for him and that his work continues, because it's not an easy thing he does, and the city needs more people involved and people doing things.
And with me now is Sliwa, who just within the half hour spoke to her husband. What is he telling you he heard them say before the shooting took place, or as the shooting took place?
All we know is they said "son of a bitch" right when they were shooting him, and that was it. And then he was struggling with a guy in the front seat and jumped out the window of the passenger side, wrestling with the shooter to get away from him.
Did he get a good look at them?
That we don't know yet.
Does he have any theories? Do you have any theories who could do this?
It could be anybody. Could be any number of enemies that we've made over the years in crime fighting, but we're not going to give up.
But do you have any ideas? I mean, who do you think it might be?
I don't have any particular idea. Right now, I'm just still concerned about his condition and hoping that he recovers. The guys are out on the streets looking for all the information that they can possibly get to turn over to the police. I hope we get these guys this time, and I hope the shooting stops in the city.
Okay, and he's going to be in intensive care for the next 2 weeks, and then he's expected to be released from Bellevue. We do have a hotline number that's been set up by the police for any information. That number is 212-598-0071. Reporting live from Bellevue, McGee Hickey, News 4. Back to you, Chuck.
Thanks.
Okay, so I just wanted you to see that to give you an idea of what happened at that time. And just so you do know, Curtis Sliwa, he's the founder of the Guardian Angels. A real New Yorker knows who the Guardian Angels are. The Guardian Angels in 1979, they were formed because of all the crime going on in New York City. And they helped a lot. I mean, 70s and 80s, early 80s was horrible in New York. It was, they made movies like Taxi Driver with Robert De Niro as a vigilante. They made a movie with Charles Bronson, Death Wish. And, you know, it was a fantasy of being a vigilante because things were so bad there at that time in New York. So I'm going to get into what happened. So going up to the moment this happened, Curtis Sliwa, 2 months earlier, was attacked by 3 guys with baseball bats. They beat him up really bad. He had to go to the hospital, and he got out. And the people figured that he would stop, and then he opened up attacking. And he was into Gambinos. He was attacking Gene and John Gotti. John Gotti at that time was on trial for the last time before he went to prison. And he was talking about how he goes to these communities and how the Gambinos and the Gottis are flooding these areas with drugs, along with the other 5 families, other 4 families. And he just wouldn't shut up. People were treating John Gotti like he was a hero, like he was a legend. And he's like, what do people saying good things about this man? This man is evil. This man is putting drugs out in the street. And he has a place in hell waiting for him. This is exactly what he said. But he was saying it intensely. And I remember watching him saying that, saying, wow, man, I can't believe he's talking like this. But he just kept on talking and kept on talking until he got beat up with the baseball bats. And now I'm going to explain to you what happened the day they tried to kill him. He was getting up in the morning and there was a cab. He got into the cab, but the cab was just stolen. And they took the handles off the back. As soon as he got in, we'll get into this. I'm going to tell you who each participant was. And this has been proven who the participants were. Unfortunately, not in the court of law because of such lousy cases. They knew who did it, but they couldn't prove it. And so let's see right here. Okay, 1 second, please. Okay, so the driver of the car, his name was, let's see, 1 second here. Let me find Joey D'Angelo. And Joey D'Angelo eventually became a witness. And the shooter was Mikey Yanati. And let me tell you about this guy right here. He was supposed to get out of jail on the 17th of this month in 4 days. But because of COVID, he got out last year. And he is a capo, and he is back. He's active, and he's back with the Gambino family. So he's active on the streets right now, just so you do know that. Okay, so he was the shooter. What he did is he basically got up and said, you son of a bitch, and just started blasting Curtis Sliwa, shot him three times. All bullets went through his body, and they were all hollow point. And remember, think about that. And this is Curtis Sliwa now. He just ran for mayor, and he lost. He's a Republican, so of course he was going to lose in the city of New York. Republicans will never win again in the city of New York. Okay, so Yanati was the shooter. D'Angelo, he was the driver. And so what happened is when they were fighting, Yanati left the window open, and his name was Mikey Y. That's basically his nickname. And he left the window open, and Curtis Sliwa hit him with an elbow and dove out the window and hit a sign, hit him and pulled him totally out the window. But as he was going out the window, Yanati hit him with another shot in the back. So, so he was shit in the back, the stomach, and the leg with 3 shots with dum-dum bullets. And they just exploded him. Okay, at this point, he gets away barely by the teeth, goes under surgery for 6 hours, and survives. And no one knows anything about the shooting, who did it. A matter of fact, the police started investigating it and called it a lover's triangle. That's what they thought, because they found out that at that time he was cheating on his wife, and he thought it was a lover's triangle somehow. The police thought that. So the police wasted their time for 1 week before they really started investigating who the real shooters were. They literally wasted their time investigating something that there was absolutely no proof of. Okay, and let me show you. Here's how I know Curtis Sliwa. I was on his radio station twice on ABC during my brother's lawsuit with the WWF. I went on 2 shows. And in one show, Jerry McDivitt, who was the lawyer for the WWE, sent a letter during the middle of the show and told Curtis Sliwa, threatened to sue him if I didn't get off the show. And Curtis Sliwa basically on the air told him to go to hell, that Lee Cole stays on my show. And I'm going to tell you how my brother knew him. This is a picture right here. This is the picture of the Guardian Angels in New York. This is their headquarters. At this time, their headquarters was down on 9th Avenue and between 43rd and 4th. Right in the middle there's a gentleman, a black gentleman with a hat with a bunch of stuff on it. Right next to him, that's my brother, Tom. And as you know, Tom committed suicide last year. But that's him right there. And Tom at that time had no place to stay. And the Guardian Angels, they let him stay there. And it took him about a month to get his everything together. He got his own place, and he moved out of the Guardian Angels headquarters. But he would go out with the Guardian Angels. And when he passed away last year, Curtis Sliwa came to his funeral, just so you know that. Okay. And so we have this whole thing going on right there, and they're trying to figure it out. So what it was determined is John Gotti sitting in prison, and he's hearing this shit going. And so he wants him taken care of. And so at that point, the head of the family was John Jr. So what he did is John Jr. had to find a person that was going to do this job. And it was Nicky Carrazzo. Nicky Carrazzo, by the basically, he was upset about everything that was going on and everything being said about John Gotti. So what he did is Nicky Carrazzo went and got his best hitter, Mikey Y. And Mikey Y at that time had already he had a couple bodies underneath his belt. So this was, he'd already killed twice before, and he shot someone. So there was three people that he shot. So this was nothing new to him when he went to get and to kill Sliwa. Okay, just so you know, that's an important thing to know, because Mikey Donato was a badass, an absolute badass. Okay, so basically what happened, just so you do know, as he settled into the cab shortly after 5 a.m. on his way to his morning talk show on WABC radio, the police said a man hiding behind the seat was in the front seat. He didn't see him. He was down on the floor, and he jumped up, suddenly sat up and opened fire. And at that time, basically on June 19th, they considered it kidnapped. He was shot by the two gunmen after entering the stolen cab. The taxi was picked up by that picked Sliwa up near his home in East Village, and as I said, the gunman was hanging in the front. Was in the front. Okay, so what happened here is they could not figure out who did it, and several years later, Mike D'Angelo, who was and I show you that picture of him. Okay, 1 second, please. Okay, so you have this guy right here decided that he was going to flip. Okay, this is Joey D'Angelo. Joey D'Angelo decides he flips, and he basically said Mikey Donati did this, and Joey got a suspended sentence. And then they tried Mikey Donati, and they found him innocent. They didn't have enough proof. And 3 times they went after John Jr., the government, and they couldn't convict him. He was found innocent on one of them by one person, one vote. 11 people said he was guilty. 1 said innocent. So basically what happened at that point, they got Yanati and other stuff, and he went to prison on other stuff. Joey D'Angelo basically did his part and left, and became a rat. And Curtis Sliwa, they never convicted anybody for shooting him, but they did time. And Yanati did time. He did almost 20 years. From the time that he went to prison. And he was like I said, he was supposed to get out next week, but because of COVID, he got out sooner. Glorify these gangsters. And Curtis Sliwa had enough guts to say, look, we can apply the Gottis or the Gambinos or anybody in the other 5 families, of the other 4 families. But these guys at that time, they were flooding the streets with drugs. And this is what they became. They became nothing more than drug dealers. They had gotten away from all the money-making things and basically became drug dealers. And this is how they were making all this money. But they were destroying so much. So when you think about how great these people are, there's nothing great about them. Nothing. They destroy lives, and that's what they did. And Curtis Sliwa said that Gene Gotti and John Gotti were drug dealers. and that they screwed the streets up, and they were responsible for it. And for that, Curtis Sliwa got gunned down. By some miracle, he lived. When you get shot with hollow point tips, and you get shot with 3 bullets, one's in the belly, the odds are you're going to die. But being that he was a street guy, he said that when Yanati was trying to shoot him in the back seat, he kept putting his head behind the driver so Yanati couldn't get a headshot. And then he hit Yanati with an elbow in the face. Yanati got stunned, and he dove out the window. As he was going out, Yanati shot him in the back. And that is the story of what happened with Curtis Sliwa. Now, next week, we're going to have Curtis Sliwa talk about it himself. Right now, we're in the process of scheduling it, being that it would be very hard to schedule with him, but being that we're friends and being that, he knows my brother. He knew my brother a lot better than me, but I was on his show twice, and he knows me by name. And he's interested in doing this because he wants to talk about the fact of being shot, and that what's bothering him right now is the glorification of these criminals on YouTube. There's nothing to glorify about them. You have other people come on here and tell you how great these people are. There's nothing great about them. They destroy lives. It's our job to do mafia shows. That's my job. And I'm going to continue doing mafia shows. And I would have badass. John Gotti Sr. was a badass. There's no doubt about that. He went to prison like a man, and he took his sentence like a man. There's only so many John Gottis left in this world. But let's not cantonize him and make him into a saint. Because he's not a saint. These people they dealt in destruction of families. They killed innocent people. They killed civilians. And, you can go to any of these families and see all the civilians they killed. The Bonanos and the Gambinos, they were famous for killing civilians. We need to remember that, people. And that's why I'm putting this up and give you a brief detail about Curtis Sliwa and the night he got away. By a miracle. But what I read recently? Curtis Sliwa can only drink insurance stuff because his sandwich, he can't eat nothing anymore with his stomach because those bullets tore his stomach apart. That's what they do. You had this man that was brave enough to stand up to them and speak the truth, and they didn't like that. So they decided to shoot him. That's all I have to say right now. I hope that you like this. It's not a detailed one. I gave you the names of Joey D'Angelo and Michael Yanati were the shooters. Please remember that. And like I said, Michael Yanati is now an active man, and he's back out in the street, and he is a captain. And this I heard from an insider that's familiar with the family. But anyway, people take care. I hope you like this. Please subscribe to my channel. I'd really appreciate it. And hit the bell so you know when I'm coming on. And thank you so much. Have a nice one.